Daniel's Music Foundation.
Lyric Writing, Series 2, Episode 2, Introduction to Song Structures. Hi, my name is Scott. I'm an instructor at Daniel's Music Foundation, and I produce the instructional mini-series videos. Welcome back to Episode 2 of our second lyric writing series. In these videos, we'll be continuing our discussion of how to take personal experiences and shape them into song lyrics. In our last episode, we introduced lines, couplets, and stanzas. For today's video, we'll discuss how those lines, couplets, and stanzas get put together into larger song structures. You may have already heard of several song structures, like verse, chorus, refrain, bridge, or instrumental. In today's video, we'll focus just on two of those structures that we tend to find in most popular music, verses and choruses. In a typical pop song, a writer will alternate between verses and choruses. A verse is where we lay out details about characters, objects, and locations. Verses also can tell the story of a song, laying out events and conflicts. Each verse is normally made up of different content. In contrast, a chorus is a repeated section that's almost always the same each time we come back to it. Choruses contain the big idea of the song. This is where the songwriter can share the moral of the story or their big desire. Let's take a look at the stanza I put together in episode 1. His hair was longer than mine was short. His jokes made me laugh so hard I would snort. I wish every day could be so full of joy, those simple times when I was just a boy. These lines are a great example of a verse. In the first two lines, I describe the important character in this story, the boy with the long hair. In the third and fourth lines, I lay out the main conflict here, which is a longing for the joy and simplicity of childhood. In this next stanza, I'll put together a chorus. Remember, the chorus is the big idea where you get to tell the moral of the story. Rather than focusing on imagery and descriptions, my chorus will lay out statements and actions. I can't go back to those younger days, and I know living in the past never pays, so I'll leave behind all those memories, focus on making these the best of years. Notice how in this chorus, I restate the conflict in the first two lines, and then in the third and fourth lines, I describe the action that I'm going to take. Rather than trying to relive the past, I'm going to focus on living in the moment and making the most of the present. As a side note, you may have noticed that I included an unusual rhyme in the final couplet of the chorus. Memories and best of years share some similar sounds, but are nowhere close to being a perfect rhyme. For my personal taste, I really like stretching the rules of rhyming and playing with unusual sounds like this. Some writers might not like how I stretch the rules there, and other writers might want to stretch the rules even further. Like we talked about in the last episode, ultimately the choices of how and when to rhyme are up to you as the writer when you're crafting your own song. Let's go through an exercise to help you write your own verse. Remember that verses are the section of the song where we'll set the scene. We'll describe characters, places, and objects. Verses are also the section of the song where we'll get the story moving by describing conflicts and events that are important to our story. To begin writing our verse, we'll revisit the process that we laid out in Lyric Writing Series 1. I want you to think about an important personal experience, and then within that experience, identify a specific moment that we can focus on. Once you have your moment, think about the characters, places, and objects that will be important for us to describe. Once you've identified your personal experience and the specific moment that you're going to focus on, you're ready to begin writing some lines. Today, we're going to write a 4-line stanza. To begin, I want you to write out 4 to 10 words that describe a person, place, or object that is important to your story. Once you've got that line written out, I want you to look at the last syllable of the last word. That's the final sound in the final word in your line. Think about other words that might rhyme with that final sound. Come up with a couple options, then choose the one that you think would best fit your story and what you're trying to describe. With that new rhyming word in mind, begin writing your second line, trying to do your best to end with that rhyming sound that you had planned out. When we're trying to create couplets with rhyming sounds, it's pretty common that we have to play around with a couple options to make it work. Let's say that my first couplet started like this. His hair was longer, then mine was short. His jokes made me laugh so hard, I would cry. These lines say exactly what I want them to, but they don't end with a rhyming sound. In order to make it work, I might have to try out a couple different combinations where I change the final sound of one of the lines and some of the specific details that go with it. Let's try a couple different combinations. His hair was lush, mine was dry. His jokes made me laugh so hard, I would cry. Or another could be, his hair was as long as mine was short. He was full of jokes and quick retorts. In all of these combinations, the specific details have changed, but the overall message and story has stayed the same. Remember that rhyming is important and powerful, but ultimately the most important thing here is to stay true to the story that you're trying to tell. To create your third and fourth lines, I want you to think about the conflict or desires in your story. For your third line, I want you to write out 4 to 10 words that describe this conflict or desire. Like we did with the first 2 lines, I want you to look at the final syllable of the last word in your third line. That's the last sound of the last word. Once you've got that, write out some options of words that rhyme with that final syllable. Choose the one that you think best fits your story, and that will be the ending to your fourth line. The fourth line should further describe this conflict or desire and should end with this rhyming sound. Before you go on to the next video, take a moment to go through the exercise that we just went through together. Select an important personal experience, then find a specific moment that you're going to focus on in that experience. Once you've got your moment, write down 4 lines that could become a verse. Remember, in the first 2 lines, you should set the scene by describing characters, places, and objects. In the third and fourth line, you should get the story moving by describing events or conflicts in your story. Do your best to end each couplet with rhyming sounds. You may be feeling challenged right now trying to fit your personal experiences into the form of lines and ending those lines with rhyming sounds without compromising the story that you're trying to tell. It's totally fine if you're feeling challenged right now. You're facing the big hurdles in songwriting and entering the next level, which is a really exciting place to be. What I find really fun and exciting about learning to write songs is that eventually these song structures will not be hurdles and challenges, but rather they'll be tools that will help you shape and enhance the story that you're trying to tell. Thank you for taking some time to explore lyric writing with me today. Your voice is unique and your stories are important. Every story deserves to be told, and you're learning all the tools you need to tell yours in the form of song. We have lots more to learn together about lyric writing, but you're taking a big step by watching these videos. I'm excited to continue learning and exploring with you in our next episode.